hood are just gone. I've been here for over 60 years. I've not seen devastation like this in my lifetime. I mean, you have to harken back to the 1990s when we were hit with the floods and the fires and the earthquakes and the riots to even get close to this.
Hochman also promised to crack down on those exploiting the crisis. We spoke to him earlier tonight in our coverage.
So the reports of looting have been coming across both law enforcement and the DA's office. I want to send an unmistakably clear message to looters or anybody who thinks that they can prey on people who have endured these tragedies. We are going to arrest you, we are going to prosecute you, and we are going to punish you to the full extent of the law. So again, it's the tragedies that are going on right now are occupying our first responders. The firefighters have done a magnificent job in responding. Law enforcement has basically called in everybody. Detectives have been putting on uniforms. They've called in help from outside this county, and they are responding in force. But again, there will always be people who look at this as an opportunity to cheat others, to steal from others, to scam others. And I want them to understand that we will not be taking this lightly. If we will go after you, we will make sure that you understand that this will not be tolerated.
Nathan Hochman, the district attorney for Los Angeles County. Let's talk about our weather now. Adam Kruger, we saw a big change today. What do we expect for tomorrow?
Yeah, we're going to see a little fluctuation in the winds here coming up. We're seeing them go down tonight. They will go back up tomorrow. I want to start here, though, yes, with graphics 1, because this is going to show you, we have a lot of weather instruments across Southern California. These are various weather stations, and everything you're looking at right here is the current wind gust speed. And so you see a lot of single-digit numbers in areas. That's good. Light winds. However, up into the mountains like the Santa Monica Mountains, the San Gabriel Mountains, we still see pockets where wind gusts are over 20, over 30, even over 40. That would be the yellow and orange numbers. And even in parts of Orange County, we see some gusty winds in the higher elevations as well. But overall, I mean, a lot of these numbers are less than half of what we saw at this time last night. And I want to switch Haley in control room. Yeah, here we go to the peak gust. So this is now like a recap of the highest gust at these spots within the last 24 hours. And notice that we had, especially north of LA, we had 70s, we had 80s. I see a couple 90-mile-per-hour gusts on the map, and even out towards the mountains like north of the Inland Empire, San Gabriel, San Bernardino Mountains, down to the Orange County area, Santa Ana Mountains down in Orange County. Extreme wind gusts. So that's a recap. What we have now is better. So now let's come back to weather 1, and I'm going to share with you the forecast. We got a lot to walk through here. We're going to talk about forecast winds. We're going to talk about forecast humidity. We have an update now on the wind alerts across our area, so we'll cover all that here within the next several minutes. But let's start right here, because the red flag warnings, those continue through Friday, but it's a different type of red flag warning. Notice I've got regular in quotes, because coming into this, we had a PDS, particularly dangerous situation, red flag warning. These are rare, although it happened to be the third one issued this year. Before this, this season, I should say. Before this season, 2020 was the last time we had one of these extreme red flag warnings. So now it's down from that. That's canceled to a regular red flag warning. That goes through Friday. The winds, again, will relax as we go overnight. And the next wind peak starts up midday tomorrow and lasts at least into Friday morning, maybe even a little bit later into the day on Friday. Here's something new now. So the National Weather Service has made some changes to the wind alerts. We had these high wind warnings going for a while. We knew those would expire tonight. So now everywhere you see a color, doesn't matter what color it is, all these colored in areas, whether it's yellow or tan, is under a wind advisory right now. For the areas that are in tan, that wind advisory goes until 2 p.m. on Friday. And just in general, we're looking at winds from the same direction, from the north-northeast. That's what NNE stands for. Sustained around 20 to 30 with gusts at times up to 50. But then we get into these yellowish colored areas. That's a high wind watch, which is issued ahead of what will likely eventually turn into a high wind warning. So we do expect the winds to get back into the higher category, not wind advisory, but high wind warning likely for these sort of mustard yellow colors right here. That will go into effect Thursday night and last into Friday morning. That's where winds sustained could be 30 to 40 with gusts up to 65. So even that is not as extreme as what we saw last night and this morning, but it is going back up to a concerning level. Now, again, red flag warnings in effect for all areas in this magenta right here through Friday. The only exclusion would be kind of along the coast there in LA County down through Orange County as well. And that's because the humidity will start to recover a little bit and the winds will be a little bit lighter in those spots. Forecast wind gusts now. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, all right, what are the winds going to do direction and speed wise over the next couple of days? So we're going to start you off at 11 o'clock tonight. And it's, while you see the streamlines kind of swirling a little, the same overall wind direction is going to be the case, where it's out of the north-northeast, which means blowing towards the coast, essentially blowing to the south-southwest. But the numbers looking lower tonight. There will be some gusty spots for sure across the mountains in purple right here, but much of the area seeing the winds come down through the middle of the night tonight, which should be great in terms of, well, just, you know, fanning the fires for, first of all. There'll be less of that going on, but also in terms of the efforts from the crews that are trying to knock down these fires and contain them. The wind forecast tonight is looking good. Now, here's where we get into another round of concerning level winds. This is midday tomorrow. I've got it paused at 1 p.m. These purple areas indicate where winds could be gusting 35 miles per hour or higher. And as you see, there are some numbers here that reflect higher than that. 50, 60 miles per hour cannot be ruled out for gusts at times. So that's midday tomorrow. Here we go a little later into Thursday evening now. And while it's not widespread strong winds everywhere, there are still pockets where it's quite windy. And again, this is when that high wind watch goes into effect. There's going to be some really windy areas into Friday morning. Then we go into Friday afternoon. And this is essentially here by the end of the day Friday, the end to our multi-day Santa Ana wind event. And by the weekend, it's not like it's a strong onshore wind coming back, but there's going to be like variable winds, lighter winds. There will be some recovery of the humidity, especially closer to the coast. So now let's transition to looking at humidity. We're starting tonight. We know it's very dry in many areas. We're starting to see that change a little bit in a few parts of LA. Going into tomorrow afternoon now, again, notice Long Beach, 65% humidity. That's pretty good. Torrance showing about 29%. But you get into these whitish gray colors here. That's below 30%, below 20%, some single-digit relative humidities. That is like desert-like dryness. And so that's still going to be a problem. And also into Friday, this is another part of the reason why the red flag warning goes through the end of the day Friday is a lot of the area still will be dry. Notice there is that recovery, though, for a little while near the coast where it does get more humid. So that's why these areas are trimmed away from the red flag warning. And I'll take you even one day farther. I know I'm throwing a lot at you here, but as we go into Saturday, notice we're starting to see the humidity come up more into a little further inland. And so this is not, again, not a big onshore wind. We don't see humidity going up everywhere, but it's starting to change a little bit in our favor. So late day Friday into the weekend, things overall looking much better for us. The air quality, by the way, and this should be no surprise that near some of these fires, especially near the Eaton fire, we've got a couple air quality sensors right now measuring unhealthy air, and these were showing even worse levels a little bit earlier in the day today. There's obviously going to be some sensors that aren't quite picking up on, for example, the Palisades fire smoke. We know the air quality is worse near some of these fires right now, but a couple in particular, like around Pasadena, for example, and East LA, showing that unhealthy air from the Eaton fire that's close to Pasadena right now. Okay, now let's look at our weather pattern. I'm going to show you this to talk about why we're seeing the offshore winds now, but also why we have another concerning thing to keep an eye on for next week. So we have the high and the low. You've known about this. We've talked about it since last week, and the setup is there for these winds to just continue to go pretty quickly, swiftly through our area offshore. Now, as we go into Friday morning, we still have this offshore component to the winds if you follow the streamlines here, but look what happens at the end of the day Friday. Winds changing direction a little bit as that low goes away, and then it's slightly an onshore wind, and this is, again, when the red flag warnings end. We go through the weekend, no big problems. We go into next week, and this low shows up. And the position of this is crucial because if it's situated on top of us, we don't have to worry too much about Santa Ana winds. If it's situated to our east, to our south, then we get a stronger Santa Ana wind picking up. And I know I'm going long here, but I'm just going to zip this forecast ahead into what's possible around Monday night to Tuesday of next week. Some stronger Santa Ana winds may be on the way. We'll get a better idea in the next few days of what this event looks like. But in the meantime, the short-term wind story is the winds are dying down tonight. They start to pick back up midday tomorrow, and they're quite strong, it looks like, at least into Friday morning. Guys, we'll head back to you.
We can't catch a break. Okay, yeah. Adam, thanks so much. DoorDash has been impacted. It has activated its severe weather protocol to pause operations in impacted areas. Operations include the impacted areas of Los Angeles and surrounding the Pacific Palisades, including Santa Monica, Westwood, Brentwood, Calabasas, Pasadena, and other surrounding areas. And as conditions get worse, DoorDash suspends service in San Fernando, Santa Clarita, and Northridge, and will continue to adjust operations as necessary.
Gina Silva joins us live right now. She has moved to Studio City, where we saw a house, multiple homes catch on fire. Gina.
That's right. We're in Studio City, and right behind me is the 4-story house that caught on fire. And to give us more details as to what happened here is Assistant Chief Aldana with the LA City Fire Department, who's been with the department for 27 years. A long time, sir. Describe what happened.
So at approximately 9:45 this evening, the Los Angeles Fire Department responded to the 4100 block of Veneta. First companies on scene found a 4-story ascending hillside home fully involved, exposing one structure to one side and ember casting into the neighborhood above into the canyon behind the structure.
So the structure behind, how much damage are we talking?
At this time, it appears to be a total loss. It's unsafe for us to go inside, so we're doing final extinguishment from the outside.
Now, even though it has been deemed a knockdown, I saw a lot of firefighters still working this house. Describe what happens.
So just due to the construction features and the way the house kind of pancaked in on itself, there's lots of areas of the home that we're unable to get direct access to get final extinguishment. So we're going to be here throughout the night with a reduced profile so we don't impact the community, but our goal is to eventually get a complete knockdown without letting it pick up enough steam where it starts ember casting into the canyon, because we still have the fire weather, which gives it a double hazard of not only the structure, but it getting into the brush as well.
Now, I understand some of the residents were told to evacuate for their safety just in case it spread. Are they going to be allowed to come back in?
Yeah, so typically we would just exclude residents from the street so we have access to the street. Because of the extreme weather that we're having right now, we did have a warning area. That's going to be lifted in this particular area because of this incident. So as soon as we're able to get our heavy apparatus out of this neighborhood, we'll start opening it up to the residents so they can start coming back, rehousing.
Well, that was really quick work by LA City firefighters. Wonderful job. I have to tell you, I mean, you guys have been dealing with so much in the last 2 days here. Describe some of the challenges you've had, especially with Palisades.
So, as you know, in Los Angeles, we typically, we pretty much have an extended season for brush fires. This particular wind event that we had was very extreme, and you couple it with some of the extremely dry fuels that we have in the Southland, and it was just a recipe for a disaster. So the last few days, as you've seen with the Palisade and many of the other fires that we've had going on, have been exceptionally challenging for the fire service. Luckily, we've had our local partner agencies here to help us, and we're making progress, but we still got a lot of work ahead of us.
You have obviously dealt with fire behavior your entire career. Have you seen anything like this before?
So we're always susceptible to some pretty extreme behavior, but some of the fire behavior that we saw during this weather event was particularly extreme. So no, this was fairly unique. You're only going to see weather this extreme a few times in your career, probably.
Now, I spoke with some LA City firefighters who say that resources are thin. There were some budget cuts, and that may have played something in the response time. Could you shed light on that?
Well, what I can tell you is just with the added call load that we have, our resources are definitely stretched thin right now. We have a ton of calls right now, so our resources are responding to every call that we get dispatched to, and we're going to continue to do so.
Well, in Altadena, which is Pasadena Fire, it's a different agency, there were 5 people who lost their lives, and mainly because there were evacuation orders and some people don't want to leave. Can you speak to our viewers in terms of how important it is to follow those orders?
Yeah, absolutely. the warnings, the evacuation orders that we put out, they're there for a reason, right? These fires are extremely dangerous. They move exceptionally fast, and they pose a significant danger, not only to the residents, but to the firefighters. The less that we have to deal with, the more we can focus on protecting homes and property, but obviously life safety is going to be our priority. And if that's what we have to focus on, we have to make tough decisions when we have these wind events.
We came from the Hollywood Hills. That was also really fast progress. Great work by LA City Fire. Now here in Studio City, you guys got that out. Palisades, it's still a problem. Can you give us an insight as to how much more you guys have? What's the containment?
Off the top of my head, we have at least, I believe, 3 non-completely extinguished brush fires at this moment. I can't really speak to any of the numbers right now, but we do have resources at all of them right now, and we're making steady progress.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you guys are very busy. Marla, Alex, I'm going to let him go unless you have a quick question for him.
I just quickly want to know, was anyone hurt in that total loss?
Were there any injuries in the total loss?
At this incident? Yes. There's been no reported firefighter injuries, and we made contact with the resident of the affected address, and that person told us that everybody was out and accounted for. So as far as we know, no injuries, civilian or sworn.
Great.
Thank you so much for all you do, all your hard work. It's very much appreciated by us and, of course, all of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gina.
I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio.
At the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a revolutionary spirit runs through our veins.
It inspires us
to think in new ways,
to challenge convention.
We are committed
to the relentless pursuit of progress.
Be revolutionary.
Heart is broken. The beauty, the natural beauty is there. So we have to rebuild that community. I have so many neighbors that have lost their homes.
Please describe what your neighborhood looks like now.
It looks like a war zone. It's not only indescribable, it's unidentifiable. But you know what we didn't lose? We didn't lose the heart, and we didn't lose the soul, and we didn't lose the natural beauty. And those are the things that we need to rebuild.
She seems like such a sweet lady. Good evening. Welcome to Fox 11 News at 10 o'clock tonight. I'm Alex Michelson.
Thank you so much for being with us at 10 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas, here for Christine Devine. Let's get you caught up to speed here.
And the latest map from CAL FIRE, the Palisades fire, has burned nearly 20,000 acres. The Eaton fire scorching over 13,000 near Pasadena. Crews have contained 60% of the Lydia fire in Acton. Evacuation orders remain, though. Other fires like the Kenneth fire, Hearst, we've seen a lot of progress on those, thankfully, and really slowed the spread on those. Red flag warnings are in effect through Friday night, with more dramatic Santa Ana winds coming Monday night.
Yes, and the Hearst fire is 37% contained. The Kenneth fire, 35% contained. What about power outages and shutoffs? The high fire danger means power shutoffs for thousands tonight. SoCal Edison has cut power to more than 35,000 customers in LA County and 2,000 in Orange County as part of their public safety power shutoffs program aimed at preventing wildfires during red flag conditions. The utility deactivates power lines to reduce the risk of sparks from damaged equipment. Now, another 124,000 customers in LA County and 35,000 in Orange County could also lose power.
Let's begin at this hour by talking about the Palisades fire. As we talked about, 20,000 acres, more than 5,000 structures are now destroyed. Good news is we finally have some containment. We're at 6% containment. We know that there have been deaths associated with the exact number, unclear. The fire continues to force tens of thousands of people under mandatory evacuation warnings and orders, and all of that is happening in Pacific Palisades.
Now to the Eaton fire. This is in Altadena, right near Pasadena. The fire has exploded to almost 14,000 acres. This one still does have 0% containment. More than 32,000 people are under evacuation orders. This is including in parts of Pasadena and Altadena. Again, 0% contained, although it states on your screen 5 people killed. That 5 people total, according to LA County Sheriff Robert Luna. 5 people 3 people in the Eaton fire and 2 lost their lives in the Palisades fire.
Hearst Fire, Silmar, now at 37% containment. Good news there. A lot of the evacuation zones have been lifted.
And the Kenneth Fire, that one erupted at 3:15 today. That was live right here on our air, scorching almost 1,000 acres, and the containment is up to 35% containment as well. Evacuations have been downgraded to warnings, and it did spread into Ventura County by evening tonight.
So let's talk more about the Palisades fire right now. Fox 11's Ed Lascos is in Pacific Palisades. Ed.
And for the very first time since this firefight began, virtually no wind, no destructive wind here in the heart of the village here at Sunset and Swarthmore. Just an occasional very light breeze. It is very smoky, a choking smoke, and lots of white ash will blow around. Almost looks at times like it might be snowing lightly here because of all that white ash. Mike will give you a look. I'm sure it's recognizable to many folks, as this is usually a place that's jumping this time of night. Not now. That's what's left of the Starbucks, very popular spot here at this corner, the Italian restaurant Casa Nostra right next door. This whole block here lost, like so many others, block after block here in the Palisades. It is gone. Mike, you'll swing over and give you a look at Sunset. This is one of the many convoys that we've seen moving through here of security, because the focus now in this area is not so much on fires, if you will, but on protection, structure protection, protection against looters. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna says they've already made several arrests, several in this area, and there is all kind of security out here tonight. You're looking at a lot more of the units moving in now, from LAPD to the LA County Sheriff's Department to the California Highway Patrol, the Pacific Palisades Patrol, as they call it. They have their own patrol that goes through here, the forestry. Everybody is out. They've got their flashlights, their searchlights on their black and whites, and they are looking for potential looters. And as the sheriff was pointing out, to tell you, if you're going to be, I'll be blunt about it, if you're going to be a fool and come up here and try to loot and to go into a building that has not burned, and you think you've got to watch out just for somebody who's in uniform, think again. Listen to the sheriff.
We have a lot of undercover deputies out there as well. If you call on one of them, I encourage that too, because some of these guys and girls don't look like police officers. I'm telling you that because I'm warning people out there that are going to try and prey on our community. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, you're going to get arrested. And from my conversation with the district attorney this morning, I've had 2 conversations with him. He's going to prosecute you to the full extent of the law. It is not worth it. Don't try it here.
Now you're looking live. What is left here? Look at that, huh? No wind, but even more so, Stars and Stripes still up there. Battered, that flag has been torn, it is burnt, but it's still up there. Maybe a sign of the spirit that's here, still alive in Pacific Palisades. As to the sheriff's point, he was saying, and even we heard the LA County DA also say, if you're going to come in here and loot, you'll be prosecuted. I think it was a DA quoting him who said, we'll come down on you like a ton of bricks. That's pretty much what we're talking about here. One other thought, folks were saying, well, you've seen the devastation, horrific devastation. So what can you loot? What can you take? Well, the thing is, these looters are going after buildings that are not damaged, but they're unlocked on purpose because they had to leave here when everybody evacuated, leave the doors, the gates open so firefighters could get in. So it's an easy target for these looters. They're going around at light law enforcement, and they're also looking for anybody who might be using flashlights in a lot of the buildings that are not damaged because there's no electricity. So the looters, in theory, would be using flashlights to look around. That's something that law enforcement's looking at tonight. And one other thing, I don't know about a curfew. We've been hearing the possibility of a curfew curfew here till 6 in the morning. Don't know if it's official, but I can tell you there is no activity, no civilian activity at all this late hour here in the Palisades. That's it at this point. Let's head back to the west side.
It is very eerie there. All right, Ed, thank you so much.
So many businesses have been impacted this. Joining us right now is the administrator of the Small Business Administration. That is a cabinet post from the Biden administration. Isabel Casillas Guzman is the administrator. She's actually a SoCal native who just flew back from Washington to help in her hometown. Administrator, before we get into the specifics of businesses, just on a human level, how are you feeling tonight, and what was it like flying in here tonight and seeing some of the damage?
Oh, it's devastating. My family is in Southern California. My kids, my sisters, they've had to evacuate in the fire, and Eaton fire in particular. So, of course, it's devastating to hear about these businesses and all these homes in my neighborhood, in my community, and throughout Los Angeles. And it's heartbreaking. It has been for the past several days as I've been tracking this with my team.
You know, more than 10,000, and of course we're so sorry that, you have this personal connection. So many people here in our viewing area can absolutely relate. More than 10,000 structures have either been damaged or destroyed between these major fires that we're dealing with. A lot of those are small businesses. So for somebody who is a small business owner who no longer has that small business to go to, how do they seek help from you, the federal government?
Well, FEMA and the SBA are coming on the ground after disaster strikes, and we, of course, work across the whole of government. President Biden has deployed resources and has committed to ensure that we can provide the support that's needed. And obviously, right now, we're focused on response and controlling, and those first responders on the ground are ensuring that everyone can be safe. And so that's first and paramount. But of course, as people are recovering, the SBA steps in to help fill gaps in insurance. If you're underinsured or uninsured altogether, and you can't get capital elsewhere, the SBA provides affordable disaster loans so that you can have that buffer and get back into your home. It's actually not just businesses. I like to say that, of course, it's the small businesses, but their customers, their employees, those are the homeowners and renters in communities that depend on these small businesses, and vice versa. So we provide very low cost, 30-year term affordable loans, and under the Biden-Harris administration, we've tried to make these products more accessible. We defer payments and interest for 12 months, and you can get all these resources at SBA.gov.
I believe the website is SBA.gov.
Okay,
we just
I can
lost
check that too.
We just lost her her signal. Right? Okay, we got you back. So you're about to tell us the website is SBA.gov, right?
SBA.gov, and we will be coordinating with the governor's office as well as all the local electeds and the emergency managers and FEMA to ensure that we open up centers as well. If you want in-person assistance in the coming days, we will be coordinating and being on the ground. But SBA.gov, you can apply today and get access to these affordable loans.
Now, obviously, we know that you flew here because of the personal connection, but are you going to be on the ground visiting, the fire lines and see some of this destruction yourself and connect with business owners?
That's right, and I'll oftentimes travel with FEMA if there are a lot of businesses impacted, as well as those homes, just to assess damage and make sure that my team can deploy. We were pre-positioned and ready to help support all the Angelenos that have been impacted by these devastating fires.
And you'll be out tomorrow, I know, with the FEMA administrator to check out some of that damage up close. So there's some people they'll see this. We know that President Biden and Vice President Harris led a briefing about this in Washington today. But unfortunately, you all, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, are short timers. There's going to be a new administration in Washington within the next week or so. So what happens then? And what kind of continuity is there to your potential successor on these issues?
The SBA has an incredible mission-driven team that is dispersed around the country as well as in D.C. and will stay on. Those are the civil servants that will have a steady state, as well as the transition. The president has committed to an orderly transition, and obviously the Trump administration, as they come in, they will have folks on the ground as well at SBA. But these programs, have been in existence for decades, and we have incredible processes and systems to ensure that those homeowners, those renters who have been impacted, who need that cash to maybe carry them through and be able to rebuild in the communities that they love so much, are able to get this assistance as soon as possible. And I will say that what we've tried to do with the SBA under Biden-Harris is streamline the process. So this application is now mobile friendly. It is available with customer support, chatbots. It is definitely a smoother interface for people to use. And so go to disasterassistance.gov to register for FEMA, get that support if you're eligible, and then go to as well sba.gov for that disaster assistance through us.
Really important information that a lot of people might not know about or didn't know that they would need to know about until this moment right now. Administrator, any other final thoughts or last words for the people of Southern California tonight?
Just that our hearts go out, but it's not just that, it's beyond that. We're here and ready for the long term. SBA stays on the ground for the long term to make sure that businesses can recover and rebuild. And we have those great technical assistance providers, those small business development centers and women's business centers and our district offices on the ground all around Los Angeles. If you want guidance and assistance as you're trying to figure out what your next steps are in assessing damage and deciding to rebuild.
All right, Administrator, thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate the assistance, and it's been great.